Hi, everyone. I'm Jonathan Egilo, President and CEO of Axo Metals. Our project is the flagship project San Antonio in northern Mexico in Sonora. It's a gold project. We recently acquired it and closed on the acquisition this past January. And since then, we are full on both doing drilling on the exploration side, on the infill side, and also rapidly advancing towards PEA and in the permitting process right now.
Fantastic, John. Good to see it. And nice to get an update from you on this one. Obviously, drilling, as you say, cracking on. It seems to be outperforming the old model. What are you starting to see, and is the confidence growing?
Yeah. So we put out our first update probably now 2 or 3 weeks ago on the drilling side, and it's been going very well. So the drilling, I'd say we kind of divided into 2 buckets. One bucket is infilling on the area that we're going to start mining first, which is a starter pit called Sapuchi. You can see if you go into our kind of press releases and reports the cross section on Sapuchi, it's a very low strip. It's like a mineralized hill. So that's why we're starting there. So one focus is the infilling of Sapuchi. The second focus is kind of expansion and growing the overall resource size, because the last resource was published in 2021 at just over 1 million ounces. We know it's substantially bigger, so we're proving that out on the exploration side. But our first update that we put out a few weeks ago was all infilling into Sapuchi. And, usually infill is a bit of a box ticking exercise to just gain confidence, tighten up the spacing. But one thing that we've also been looking at is drilling into areas where in the previous block model, it was entirely waste. So when you drill into what was previously waste, if the hole comes back dry, that's okay, because that was the assumption anyways. But we keep getting, some nice surprises of some good long intercepts, kind of above cutoff grade that should help the block model.
Well, obviously, intersecting mineralization in previously, previous classified as waste, that's going to have an impact on strip ratio and presumably economics as well. So how much work are you going to do on that?
Yeah. I mean, a lot. Like, the beauty about intersecting something that is already waste within the old pit is the threshold for it to be meaningful is a lot lower, right? If it's coming out of the pit anyways, and especially if we're heap leaching it, that incremental threshold for the value of the rock actually needs to be quite low for it to make a very meaningful impact on economics. So, for reference, right now, if we're intercepting something that's already within the pit that is even like 0.2 grams per ton, and in the press release we're hitting stuff that's 0.4 and then 0.6, but even if it's already within the old pit and say 0.2, that warrants being stacked on a heap leach pad. Maybe it's not the kind of mineralization that you chase a pit to go after a new area, but if it's already coming out, it starts to pay back its costs and more.
It's interesting to me because you talk about 0.4, great, but if you look at like hole 20, you're sort of 24 meters at over 2 grams per ton. I mean, how representative is that higher grade component relative to the starter pit?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a higher grade component of Sapuchi, and it was nice to see those grades come through in some of the infill. So that specific intercept would improve the block model of, because it, we didn't have it modeled as over 2 grams per ton over 25 meters in that area. So stuff like that is incrementally improving the block model. That one wasn't through waste, but it's also a good representation of kind of what makes that starter pit a little bit special. Is not only is it a low strip, which looks great for a startup, but there's also these pockets and areas of really wide intercepts of good grade, and that will also it's straight from surface.
Right. So so there's obviously clearly the Sapuchi oxides. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to understand the kind of decision making in terms of a capital intensity perspective, in terms of where you're starting and what you're seeing. What are the kind of trade-offs that you were doing when you were looking at all the data?
Yeah, I mean, well, the startup that we're looking at is, I compare it similar to, let's say call one of our sister companies of Silver Tiger, similar idea of starting off with the oxide heap leach first. The kind of difference between us and them right now is we have all the existing infrastructure. So when I look at capital intensity and the startup for San Antonio, it's not so much entering a new build, it's really taking an existing heap leach mine, which it fully was. I mean, it ran from 2011 to 2018. The previous owner on it, Cisco, was producing from it as recently as 2021. So all the infrastructure that Cisco last used to produce gold in 2021 is still there. Really what we're doing here is we're taking that existing infrastructure and doing the necessary work that you'd have to do for any existing mine to just go after a new deposit. So it's building a haul road, it's building more leach pad capacity, and it's, you know, a bit of stripping, but fortunately for us, just with the way the mineralization is straight from surface, the stripping is minimal, and we should be able to start right in ore.
Right. So just in terms of the thought process here, because obviously you're starting to see these oxide ounces extend beyond the current pit shell, albeit at, you know, lower grades. But where do you need to get to in terms of declaring kind of reserve numbers, or because of this, I guess, brownfield component, this past producing component, are you going to be able to kind of accelerate into a sort of near term production profile without worrying about reserves for now?
Yeah, so we are doing the infill drilling right now to get up to what would be considered, you know, reserve level spacing, you know, at Sapuchi. Because in our mind, you know, we don't really need to see more to go into a production decision. You know, quite frankly, Cisco, when they tried to get the permit under the previous administration, Obrador Lopez, they were fully committed to building. And I actually already brought in some of the infrastructure that we're benefiting right now, like a 12,000 ton a day crusher. So we're tightening up some of the spacings, doing a little bit of engineering work, but you know, we don't, frankly, I don't think we need to see much more of a threshold to commit to going into production. Really what's stopping us right now, or the work that we're waiting for, is, you know, we applied for a permit this past January, and we're thinking, you know, based on our work with Silver Tiger, maybe it'll take us 12 months. So if we could have a permit by early next year, have a minimal build in front of us, really it's more of an expansion of the current heap leach mine. You know, the work that's going to Sapuchi right now is really just tightening up some of the spacing to get us to reserve levels, so that when it comes time to do the build, we don't have to, you know, infill the area that we want to start at.
Right. So you talked about expansion of a heap leach. Can you, let's be clear, but how much effort has been put into between now and receiving permit will be used on expanding resources? And is that important in the market context, or is it, quite frankly, let's get this thing into production?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of work is being put into expansion of resources. Frankly, you know, we're in a part of Mexico where the drilling is not particularly expensive. We only pay anywhere from $200 or $250 a meter, and we think it's important to not only prove to ourselves, but also show the market that, you know, when you look at a project that's just 1 million ounces, sometimes that can, the reputation can be, oh, well, it's a small project, maybe a small little moneymaker, but it's a small project. But, you know, that's not our opinion on this. We think it's a huge gold system, and we want to do the work now to prove to the market, and, you know, not necessarily sit on our hands and wait until we're in production and doing cash flow, because, you know, for spending another, right now we've committed to 5,000 meters on of expansion drilling, like resource step out. Quite frankly, with, I think, some of what we're seeing, we have the ability to substantially expand that, and there's a really good chance that we do, because, you know, 5,000 meters is only about, you know, it's only about $2 or $3 million, and we just recently raised 40. So if we want to turn that 5,000 meter expansion program into 25,000 meters overnight, because we're seeing good results, you know, we have the balance sheet to be able to do that. And if we're seeing good results, we will do that.
Okay. Let's talk about the PEA. It's imminent, right? And I think obviously people will expect you to be focusing solely on the oxide heap leach component, but is there going to be any element of transitional or sulfide included in there?
Yeah, the PEA is going to cover everything: the oxide, the transition, and the sulfide. The sulfide will be a scoping study on the mill. You know, the engineering work that we're doing in a lot more detail right now is focused on the oxide, which is where we're going to start. So, you know, what you're going to see is a PEA that covers everything, and it's going to cover the inferred resource portion of the sulfides that will be fed into the mill. But, you know, we're not going to build based on just, you know, PEA level confidence on the oxides. Quite frankly, if all we needed was PEA level confidence on the oxides, we wouldn't have to do any more engineering. We wouldn't have to do any more infill. Like, because in our mind, we're building this project next year. That's the focus of our infilling and the engineering that we're doing on the oxides. But the PEA will cover everything with a mill and the and the sulfides further out.
Okay, and let's come back to this 40 million that you raised, because like if I look at the 2021 resource that was done at less than $2,000 gold, obviously very different world right now. The existing infrastructure, how much of that can be reused? How much is it repurposed, upgraded? And at some point you're going to say, well, we'll probably need to go to market. What would we be looking at? What are the elements you think this needs a little bit more love and money?
I mean, well, frankly, all the infrastructure can be reused because it was kept in good shape on care and maintenance over the past 5 years. There's been a skeleton crew at site that has been irrigating the lines, running water through the old columns just to keep everything up and running. We plan to, frankly, reuse all of it. I mean, the one part that you can't reuse is old heap leach pads, but that's just simply because they're at capacity.
Okay.
So I guess, and to talk to your question on capital intensity going forward, there'd be a little bit more that would come in for the raise. I'd also note that on the last raise we did, there's $30 million of warrants that, especially on some of these good catalysts, like for example, if the permit ends up being a catalyst, I'd hope those warrants would come in the money. So that'd be another 30 million Canadian that could come in from that. And there's also, when we're talking about the kind of bite-sized capex, like I don't want to front run capex numbers, but if we look at something like, let's say, a Silver Tiger, which is maybe 100 million, 130 million, something within that kind of range, and then we benefit from the fact that ours is probably already 2/3 built, so I just kind of rough those numbers into what I think a capex would be. What I'm getting at is I don't think the raise would be substantially more. We're probably talking in the single tens of millions of dollars. And when it comes to that, you have a lot of options, especially when it comes to non-dilutive capital. If we were trying to raise $500 million to build a mine, our options would be a lot smaller. There's only a certain amount of groups that can provide that kind of capital through debt, and they would almost always require some kind of coinciding equity raise, whereas we have the option.
Yeah, I don't think finance is going to be a big hurdle for you guys. And just in terms of the kind of critical path items, obviously PEA, great, but after PEA through to first gold, you mentioned the permit, but it's permits. There's multiple permits. Are there some which are easier than other, or do they all come bundled up under one agreement?
Well, there's one big one, which is the MIA, which is like the environmental impact assessment. Fortunately, with our group of companies, which includes Silver Tiger and Go Gold and Axo, 2 of the 3 have already got the permits, with Axo being, the latest one. Silver Tiger and Go Gold, their permit applications have been in well before us. But, the track record of, I don't think we really get involved in projects unless we have absolute high confidence and frankly certainty that we can get the permits. And we've shown that for both Go Gold and Silver Tiger, one of the 2, which was an open pit permit. So the important permit we need is the MIA, which we got for Silver Tiger, which we got for Go Gold. There would also be something on top of the MIA called a change of use of land, which is more of a paperwork exercise. The actual decision that's being made at the government level is giving the MIA, giving the go-ahead, giving the approval on the environmental impact assessment. The change of use of land is more of just a process to change land on our property that was previously considered, under agricultural use to industrial use. But companies do that all over Mexico, every week.
Okay, and you've obviously got existing permits on water, camp, power infrastructure,
water security,
etc. It's all kind of So I guess that all helps. Now you go see. People will look at the PEA, and people may look at the first phase of this, or the first stage of this, and go, "Oh, well, that's fine." But just to give me a bit of blue sky in terms of the potential, the size of the district upside, as it were, once you've got things going. What are you looking to?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say even the starter pit and kind of phase 1 of what we're looking at San Antonio will end up being substantial. And also, you can compare it to our market cap, or frankly enterprise value today, right? If we're near an enterprise value today of like 100 million US, and the PEA comes out and it says, well, that's our cash flow for year one, right? That in and of itself is expect to be some kind of substantial re-rate, right? If we come out with those kind of cash flow numbers, and then when I look at long term, the mill that's going to be built at San Antonio, I think is going to end up being sized for a much larger resource than what we're dealing with right now. So I look at the old resource, which, like you mentioned, was done at sub $2,000 gold. We run that at more modern numbers, and we get a substantial lift there. Probably looking closer towards maybe the 1.5 million ounce number, and then just some of the drilling that we've been doing and the early results that we're looking to put out on the expansion. It doesn't feel like there's huge hurdles between us being at 1.5 million ounces and 2 million ounces in terms of in terms of resource scale. So once we have that in the back of the hand, then we go back and resize the mill and start looking at much bigger project. If you just rule of thumb, spread that resource out over 10 or 12 years, that's when you start to look at 100 or 150,000 ounce per year project, which would be a lot of cash flow.
Okay, and I think something you mentioned there kind of struck me is that I think people don't realize the kind of power of the group. If I look at the Silver Tiger and the Gold and the ability to execute in country, it kind of feels like potentially some people are underwriting execution risk with Axo without necessarily factoring in that wider group. I mean, can you just talk to what that brings to the table for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think unlike a certain amount of our peers and developers, right, we're not just looking to drill, grow the resource, put out a study, and just hope that the company gets bought. Like, I want to see this company transition through the entire re-rate, right? So that's when I'm looking at cash flow numbers on, call it even phase one of our build at San Antonio of just the oxide. I'm looking at, okay, what would Axo as a company look like if we were the ones actually making those cash flow numbers? And we benefit a lot because the hurdles between us and production, I feel like relative to the general industry, are lower than what a lot of our developer peers are. One is, on the permitting side, we've just got, the last two new permits in Mexico. And then secondly, on the capital intensity side, like, we don't have to go out and try to raise and build a $1 billion project. So, yes, there's some hurdles that we have to get over between now and first production, but it's nothing that the group hasn't done in the past, numerous times over.
Okay. Well, what are we going to hear from you next? When I see you, what are we talking about? PEA?
Yeah, so the PEA, right now we're planning for the PEA in September. Before then, we'll have more exploration drill results come out, not only infilling at Sapuchi, which, like I mentioned before, infill is generally more of a box ticking exercise, but this seems to be a little bit more than that and actually value additive. And then also between now and the PEA, we're going to have results out for some step out drilling and some expansion drilling, some of the first results, hopefully to start to showcase to the market that, we don't see this project as 1.1 million ounces. So we'll put out some of the drilling to start to lead the market in that direction too.